don't really know what we want. We're overthinking everything. And a big part of me thought to myself, what types of things just like really made me get excited for life? The issue is that as you get older, society pushes the genius out of children, out of you, out of me, out of all children. The answers, at least that I seek, are probably right there in front of my face. And my adult brain is almost too logical to notice it. All right, welcome back to another vlog. So, there's a few things I want to talk about in this vlog. First of all, I partially want to apologize. And I want to apologize because earlier in this year, I said that I wanted to make more of an effort to do vlogs and kind of just give a sort of a play-by-play of each week. The goal originally was to do like one vlog every week or so. I think it was 1 week a vlog. And I failed miserably at that. It is like March, what's today? Today's March 14th, March 15th, something like that. And I think I've done 3 vlogs so far this year, kinda. I did one vlog as well, but I haven't published it yet because it's for the couples channel that me and my wife have. And I just haven't gotten around to editing it. I don't know if I'm gonna edit it because I don't know if it's worth putting out there. Spoiler alert, it's for a party that we had, just some commentary about a party and some behind the scenes stuff. Not super important, so I didn't really know if it was worth posting. But I do want to share this video because, one, I'm trying to resume this trend of doing vlogs, and I do want to announce some, I guess we'll call it wins, some successes that I've had throughout the year so far. Now, why am I sharing these wins? There's a few reasons. Part of it is for selfish reasons. Part of it is because I want to go at the end of the year and just review all these vlogs and just see what the year has been like for me, to see if there's been any ups, any downs, any true wins, any true losses, and from the wins and losses, kind of just reevaluate and see what went right and what went wrong. And of course, with that in mind, if things go right, I'm going to do more of that thing next year. And whatever went wrong, I can sort of learn from it, pivot a little bit, and try to do less of those wrong things. Second is because whenever I win, one of my philosophies in life is I like the idea of win-win. I like win-win scenarios. I like an ideal world in which if something good happens for me, it happens for the people around me, or at the very least, there's a trickle-down effect. So the purpose of me sharing these wins isn't just to like boast and isn't just to like brag, if it even, hopefully it doesn't come across that way. The real purpose is to share the lesson in the losses, but also the lesson in the wins. And I feel like what I tend to find in the modern era is a lot of people, when they win, what they don't do is they don't share their wins. They share the wins to brag or to flex on people, but they don't share the wins when it comes to how to win as well. Hopefully that makes sense. Like, you'll see someone who gets money, for example, and you try to ask them, how'd you get this money? I see this a lot, by the way. A lot of street interviews, you see people who claim to have money, and someone will come up and say, you know, you made $5 million. How'd you do this? And they give the most generic, garbage answer possible. Just stuff you can find in any self-help book. And I hate advice like that because my personal philosophy is if it's not replicable, it's not worth talking about. Does that make sense? Like, if you went up to somebody and said, how did you become a billionaire? And they said, I got a billionaire by getting a small loan of $1 million from my father, and I leveraged it in real estate or something like that. It's useless advice because unless you have a father who can give you a loan of $1 million, there's nothing you can do with that information. So it's pointless. This is why I want to share some of my wins and losses. I want you, as the viewer, to get something out of it, and maybe I'll share something that, you know, might not work for you, but it did work for me. I'll openly say, like, I don't recommend you doing this because I think for me this was pure luck, and I'm actually going to talk a little bit about that in this video, but I might advise away from it. But I still want to share it with you because maybe I'm advising away from it, but maybe you might sit there and say, no, your situation's similar to mine. Let me try this too. Maybe I can win from this too. So I know that was a bit long-winded for the intro, but I did want to just share why I'm creating this video with you and sort of, I guess, almost keep myself accountable to you guys watching. So with that being said, let me try to get into some of the wins and some of the losses for this year so far. So the first 2 wins of the year so far, and this is, all these wins and losses are in no particular order, but first 2 wins that I want to share with you are sort of related, so I'm going to clump them together. And basically what these wins are is I wrote a fiction book and I wrote a comic book. Now I want to kind of explain those two things. Both are very short. I wrote a very, very, very short fiction book. It's been a goal of mine for the past few months to kind of start writing fiction-based books, partially because I'm just not very good at writing fiction. I've written several nonfiction books before, and I feel like with nonfiction, it's a little bit more straightforward. You have information, you structure the information in a certain way that's easy-ish, hopefully, easy enough for the reader to digest, and you essentially just sit there and you type it out, and you proofread, you edit, and watch, rinse, and repeat, and you put it out. To me, nonfiction's not super complicated. Fiction's a bit more difficult because at least this is my experience so far with writing the very short fiction book that I have and taking classes on how to write fiction. It requires you to kind of see your characters. There's a lot more to it. You have to kind of think about the story, think about the plot, think about if the plot makes sense. There's a lot of times people write things, and I'm sure if you're watching this video, you've probably seen a movie or two recently that makes no sense plot-wise, or it feels like just a jumbled mess. I try to avoid that, and I think that's where the difficulty of good writing comes in. Not to say I'm a good writer. I don't think I'm a good writer at all. I'm still learning. But aside from that, you have to kind of write the characters a certain way, give them their own sort of characterization, give them their own traits, habits. It's its own kind of challenge, which is great. I love it. That's a fantastic thing. But one of my goals was to kind of get into writing fiction, and I felt like the very first step to doing that was to create just a short fiction book. And the reason why I wanted to make it short is because, to me, if it's short, it's achievable. One of my philosophies is try to get wins as quickly as possible and just stack wins on top of each other. And to me, writing a short fiction book and just getting it out of the way, putting it out there, it's free, by the way. If you ever want to check it out, I'll have a link to it below. Let me know what you think about it, because people say that you're your own harshest critic, so I think the book's terrible, if I'm being honest. But maybe if you're watching, you might feel differently about it. But yeah, I want to get it out as quickly as possible just to see that I could do it. And once it's out there, it kind of gets deleted from my mind, and it allows me to kind of take that next step into getting feedback. And from that point, sort of, taking the feedback in and changing it, making the next book better than the first. So yeah, comic book, more or less the exact same concept. I want to just I've been taking drawing classes, and I wanted to kind of put those drawing classes to use. One of my long-term goals was to create sort of a comic book series that would almost rival Marvel or DC. And I know that sounds like super hyper ambitious. I'm not saying profit-wise it's supposed to rival Marvel or DC, but I like the idea of creating a comic book that's so popular that people just gravitate towards it to the degree that they like things like Batman, things like Superman, Spider-Man, etc. So that's been my goal. For both the fiction book and for the comic book, my goal is not to make money. I do not care about making money. If the opportunity presented itself at some point in the future, sure, I'm totally okay with making money from it. But that's not the goal. The goal is to just tell good stories and, I guess in a sense, entertain people. Hopefully they get something interesting from the stories that I share. So that's really the main purpose behind it. But both of those things are out of the way. Both of those things, if you're interested, you can see down below in the description. I'll put a link to both. It'll probably just be a Google Drive link, just because I don't have any specific website or any specific place to put them. Because like I said, they're not created for profit. They're just created for people to enjoy if they want to spend their time to do so. And they're both super short, by the way. So it's not like you're investing tons of time. But yeah, if you check those out, let me know in the comments what you think about them. I would love feedback, whether it's good or bad. You can literally say it's horrible, and I'll graciously accept that and take that into consideration for the next comic or for the next fiction book that I write. But yeah, so those are the first two wins so far of the year that I want to list. The second sort of main win that I want to share with you is Productivity Accelerator has been growing, and that's been fantastic. So the main goal that I've had with Productivity Accelerator is sort of just to be sort of a well-known education company that really helps people sort of achieve, I guess, ultimately the good life is what I call it, the flourishing life, through the use of time management. Now, I've talked about this on my other channel, Productivity Accelerator, so I'm not going to go super deep into it here, but I do want to say that that's been going well. The company's been growing. We've been getting more leads, which hopefully over time will convert to more long-term, higher quality clients. That's sort of been the thing that's been holding us back lately. We've been getting leads, and we haven't been getting as many leads up until recently. But in the past, the leads we would get were decent leads. They weren't the highest quality leads, and for a few different reasons I'm not going to discuss in this video, but I will have another video where I do go down into it, well, at least where I go into my ideas a little bit more. The clients that we've had have not been super high quality clients. And when I say high quality, I'm not saying it on an individual level that the people aren't high quality. What I am saying is that they don't stick around very long, which to me means they're low quality for the business because they don't see the value in the service that we provide. And we haven't got any negative comments or any negative feedback. I think for a few reasons, like I said, I'll explain this in a different video. But for a few reasons, the clients have not really been a good fit for us as a company. So otherwise, I will say that one of our goals has been just getting in more leads, and that's been happening through the use of Facebook ads primarily and through podcasts. So that's been fantastic, and I do hope that continues to help the business grow over time. Now, one other thing that I want to share really fast, another win, and this is part of Productivity Accelerator. This is related, but it's me being on more podcasts. I've been invited to come on different podcasts recently. Some of them have just been people finding my contact information or finding my website, my main website in particular, and just reaching out, asking if I want to come on the platform, just do a little bit of a collab, which is fantastic. As far as value to you as a viewer, and I want to say this, I recommend this completely. If you're watching this in 2025 or beyond, but especially in 2025, if you're watching this like after the video has come out, like right after the video came out, I personally believe one of the best things you can do is start a personal brand. Now, full disclaimer, I have nothing to sell you. If you don't start a personal brand, I do not care. It does not benefit me. It does not hurt me. I'm not one of these dudes that will say start a personal brand, and then at the end of the video, I have a sales pitch that'll take you to some landing page to sell you some like expensive course. I don't have that. I personally just think a personal brand is the best case scenario for most people in 2025. If you want to make money relatively easily, and I use easily with like an asterisk, but if you want to make money relatively easily for a very long period of time, consistently, I think a personal brand is a fantastic idea. I've done other videos in the past where I've talked about this. I'll put one up somewhere because I've talked about this before, so this is not a new idea. But I do think that in the very near future, the opportunity to create a personal brand will be harder. I think right now it's already kind of hard, but I still think it's more or less doable with a little bit of consistency, with a little bit of effort, and with a little bit of know-how. I think as time goes on, when there's more tools like AI present, I think AI is going to make it very difficult to have a personal brand because I think AI will essentially allow one person to create multiple brands that appeal to many different audiences. And I think you'll almost see, I won't say monopoly on personal brands because that's not quite the correct use of the word monopoly, but I think you will find that there'll be a few people or a few corporations that will know how to target certain demographics the best with AI software, with like AI avatars. A lot of advertising will be done through those AI avatars. Now, just let me give you a quick example. I'm sure you may have heard of people like Logan Paul. You may have heard about an actor like Dwayne Johnson, maybe someone like even Donald Trump. I think in the relatively near future, people will make AI avatars that look and sound very unique, and they're consistent avatar models. So it's not going to look like a jumbled mess. They're going to look like basically real people. You might not be able to tell the difference. They're going to have their own personality, their own background story, their own unique way of talking. And because they're custom created, they are essentially a better version of what a PR trained actor could ever be, because they're AI. They're just programmed to act and say things in a certain way. And because they're so good at appealing to a certain demographic and saying certain things without any mistakes, it's the perfect opportunity for an advertiser to use them in a certain way to push whatever products or services or whatever they wish to sell. Imagine like a kid that's AI generated, and all this kid does is talk about toys in a certain way. He never gets older. He never gets tired of talking about software. He can do it 24/7. He's the perfect person for a toy manufacturer or some kind of toy company, or maybe even like a gaming company, to advertise through, because he can do it 24/7. He will not get tired. He's perfect. And because he can be programmed and tailored to say and act a certain way, there's fewer mistakes and fewer costs in having him relative to having someone like Dwayne Johnson, or maybe even a YouTuber who's a kid who makes millions of dollars selling and opening toys. I think there actually is a kid named like Kevin who does that. I'm not super familiar with him, but I've heard of him or someone similar to him. Imagine someone like that, but you can control it, or a person can control 10 or 20 or 50 of them. But hopefully you get the point that I'm trying to make. So the reason why I say personal branding now is going to be so important to me is because if, say for example, I become a personal brand that you recognize, that you trust, I think more people will trust a human than AI. And I do think that at some point, once you get bigger companies that kind of get savvy to this type of software, they're going to do their absolute best to just outsource all personal branding to AI software. So if you're one of the few people that manage to get a personal brand now, and you manage to stick around, and you manage to kind of show your personality, show your background. I talked about this years ago in 2020 in the past. If you're the kind of person that does show a little bit of vulnerability, so that way you're relatable, it'll feel like a more authentic brand. And I think people will resonate with that more than just some AI program that's always sort of just told to be perfect in a sense. Again, like I'm saying, when that happens, when AI personal brands exist, I don't think it'll eliminate real human personal brands, but the problem is that there are going to be so many people trying to be a personal brand at that point that it'll make it very difficult to stand out. I think at that point you'll really need to have a very interesting story. You're going to really need to be able to present yourself on camera a certain way. It's like trying to get popular on YouTube. Being popular on YouTube back in like 2010 was relatively simple. You know, you could see people with like really terrible quality cameras, people who weren't very articulate, people who couldn't speak very well, who didn't have very interesting backgrounds, just post content consistently. And because there are so few people doing it, it was that much easier to stand out. Nowadays, in 2025, when I'm recording, there's so many people trying to start a brand in every single industry. It requires a lot more work, effort, consistency, technical skills, planning to stand out. So just imagine the difference between 2010 and 2025, the difference in effort, and then I think multiply that by like 5. And that's what we're gonna have in like, personally, 5 to 10 years, in my personal opinion. So I think if you're not getting into personal branding now, you're making a big mistake. Now, I share all of this because I think podcasting is a fantastic way to build your personal brand, which is why I get on podcasts, and I've been trying to get on podcasts a lot more. I think there's a lot more opportunities when you can get on podcasts. I don't want to like kind of beat a dead horse by just kind of reiterating this too much. I've already said this on different videos I've created, but I definitely think that is the strategy. And if you're watching this, one thing I recommend using, this is a tool I use, is podmatch.com. I am not sponsored to talk about them. I am not affiliated with them in any way. I just use them, and I found them to be a very good platform to find podcasts on. If you're not familiar with Podmatch, it's literally exactly as the name of the company sounds. You make a profile, and they sort of almost pull like a Tinder type mechanism where you kind of swipe, and it tries to use, I guess, AI or some kind of algorithm to match you with hosts or guests, depending on what you want, that fit your brand or fit the things you want to talk about. And once you guys match, you can talk to each other, set up a time to do a podcast, and if all goes well, you create the podcast and it gets launched. And it's that simple. I recommend it. I think the website's literally www.podmatch.com. Again, I'm not affiliated with them. I am not sponsored by them. They do not know I exist. I'm just bringing this up because, as I mentioned in the beginning of the video, if you're watching this, I want whoever is consuming my content to win. So hopefully that's a way for you to win if you do want to start a personal brand and if you do want to get on more podcasts. Now, the final thing that I want to mention to you that's been sort of a big win, and this one kind of shocked me. It's getting to over 1,000 subscribers. Now, I'm not going to go super deep into like a long background story, but in 2024, basically what happened was I started creating content in November of 2023, and around December-ish, around January, I went from about 10, 12-ish subscribers to about 430-ish subscribers in a very short period of time. So about 400 in about a month. And then it sort of plateaued. And from about January to May, it sort of stayed sort of in that 500 subscriber range. A few reasons for that. I think a big reason for that was because I wasn't as consistent as I'd like to be. I think the content was a bit inconsistent as far as what I tried to post. At the time, I kind of merged Productivity Accelerator and just Leviticus Rich as a brand together. So I was posting educational content about how to be more organized, how to structure your day more effectively, things of that nature for the company. But I was also posting vlogs, couples content, real estate type stuff, finance type stuff, fitness stuff. Pretty much the channel had everything you can think of. And my thought process, and I don't know if this is true or not, this is just me kind of giving my 2 cents. My thought process was the algorithm can't push my content to anyone in particular because it doesn't know who my targeted audience is, because I'm talking about way too many things. And so I think around August or so, no, probably around June, July-ish, I didn't really create that much content at that point. We were kind of going through this thing where I was going back and forth between Northern Virginia, where I currently live now, and Lynchburg, which is where my now wife, then girlfriend, used to live. So I would commute very often. That would get in the way of me creating content, planning out what to even put out. It made it difficult. And so I pretty much took a break. Once we got married, around July, August, I sort of decided to try to create more content more consistently, but I started doing it for Productivity Accelerator. And I just started to focus on the business more than the personal brand. So long story short, I ended up posting more content on this channel, the one you're watching right now. And for whatever reason, my thought process was, I'm not going to care too much about the algorithm. I'll do slight tweaks here and there, sort of to optimize retention. I did have some of that in mind. But really, the whole goal for the main channel was just to talk about whatever came to mind that I thought was valuable, that I thought was interesting, and essentially just provide insights and my own philosophies, which is what I started doing. And for whatever reason, I posted a video recently, I think about 10 days ago, about sharing your age and why I don't like to do it. And you guys loved it. It blew up. I don't know why it blew up. I don't know why that particular video took off. I think there's other videos I've posted that were just as insightful, which you should watch, by the way. But for whatever reason, that video took off. I know a few days ago, I checked in and I went from about 500 subscribers to 900 subscribers in the span of like 4 days. And I was shocked. I was like, man, I might actually get to 1,000 subscribers finally after like 2-ish years or so of just trying to post consistently, but not super consistently. And I checked in, I think yesterday, and it went from like 900 subscribers to 1,500 subscribers, and it's still going up. The YouTube channel, the YouTube video itself, a couple days ago was at like 1,000 views. I checked today, it was at 36,000 views. So for whatever reason, that video just took off. I do not know why. I'm not going to sit here and be one of those people that's going to say, oh, well, of course it blew up because I optimized this and I optimized the thumbnail. My personal opinion, I think my other thumbnails are perfectly fine. I think I've had far better thumbnails in my opinion. I think the title's okay, but I don't think it's anything super crazy. And to be honest, the content is straightforward. It's just me doing what I'm doing now, sitting here at this table, just talking. which I've done before, and the other ones have not taken off the same way. So any advice I can give to you is almost non-existent. I think really just came down to a lot of luck and a little bit of consistency. I won't even say that much consistency, because for a good few months of last year, I wasn't that consistent. But I guess there's some consistency that plays a role, because if I didn't at least keep trying to post content, then obviously no content could ever take off. Regardless of the reason, I appreciate you guys for watching the video. I just appreciate you guys taking the time to watch it. It means a lot to me. And I hope you continue to watch more of my videos and get value from it. I guess one final message I want to kind of end the vlog on is, one thing I've been doing lately is I've been trying to make more time to just do the things that I enjoy more. And I'll talk about this in another video too, but one thing I've been trying to do a lot lately is think about what I used to enjoy as a child. And I have this philosophy that children are geniuses. And I think the issue is that as you get older, society pushes the genius out of children, out of you, out of me, out of all children. And we become sort of like these adults that are kind of wandering in life. We don't really know what we want. We're overthinking everything. And a big part of me thought to myself, the answers, at least that I seek, are probably right there in front of my face. And my adult brain is almost too logical to notice it. Hopefully that makes sense. So what I've been doing is I've been trying to get back into the things that I was just naturally drawn to do as a kid. Like the things that you didn't have to think about, the things you just wanted to do, and you almost did in spite of the judgments or in spite of the negative perception. Within reason, of course, within reason. So for me, I'm gonna be a complete nerd. Things like anime, I've been watching more anime. It's been amazing, by the way. I've been reading more. It's been amazing, by the way. I've been getting into drawing, like I mentioned earlier in the video. Trying to exercise that creative bone. And it's been fantastic. I will say that completely. It's been fantastic. It's also made me kind of reevaluate the types of people I want to be around, the types of friends I want to make. And I've been thinking heavily about, when I was younger, what types of people did I want to hang around the most? What types of activities did I want to do the most? What types of things just really made me get excited for life? And that's not to say that I wasn't excited for life prior to this, but again, one of my philosophies is always to try to keep improving. You want to get better at whatever it is you're doing. And so me trying to improve the quality of my life, to me, is a way of getting better. So that's kind of just my takeaway. If you're watching this right now, this has been working well for me as of now. Just doing the simple things that really made you happy as a kid. Do those things more. I'm sure there's plenty of you right now that are adults that maybe when you were a kid, you like to just go outside and play. I know that sounds simple. I know that sounds like juvenile, but you might think to yourself, man, I don't feel happy enough. Maybe you just need to go outside and just play. And I'm not saying play in a very foolish, reckless way, but maybe the solution is grab a few friends, go outside, play tag. I know it sounds ridiculous, but I sit there and I say to myself, what is the harm of playing tag as an adult? What is the harm of just doing things you did as a kid? And the only real thing I can come up with is you care about the judgment of other people who are also probably as miserable or more miserable than you. That's the only thing stopping you. I think to myself, what stops me from talking about anime or creating comic books or posting about it? I care about the judgment of other people. I care that people might judge my art negatively. I care that people might think that I'm a nerd. Stuff like that. But if I stop caring, what would be the upside and the downside? Well, the upside of me not caring is that the upside is I get to be more me. I get to be more of who I am. I get to express myself more, which makes me happier. The downside is maybe I'll lose a few people who probably weren't really my friends to begin with. Maybe I'll turn off some people who don't really align their views with mine in the first place. If that is the case, is that so bad? And that's a genuine question I want you to answer yourself as I conclude this video. So that is the end of the video. Hope you get a lot out of this. I know this was a long vlog. This was kind of all over the place. But let me know what your takeaways are. And by the way, like I mentioned in the beginning, I do have the comic and I do have my very, very, very short first fiction book down in the description below. Let me know what you think about it. It can be negative or it can be positive. I don't care. I love feedback regardless. It helps me improve. But yeah, looking forward to seeing your insights. By the way, one more thing. Please, before you leave, click the like button. And if you know anyone that might get some value from this, please share it. I mentioned this in the last video, but I've been trying to appease the YouTube gods and get them to actually push my content through the algorithm so other people can see it. So if you want to help me, it's totally free. Just click the like button, maybe hit subscribe, maybe share it. That's all I ask for. But until the next video, I will be seeing you. Peace out. Bye.